fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what, good to say I absolutely stand up to something. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. What's up, boys and girls? Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, all the places where you can listen to podcasts. I'm so excited to bring in our guest today. But before I do that, I have a couple of quick announcements. Tickets are still on sale for the Vegas show. We are thinking of adding a late show, which is very exciting, but you can still get tickets for the 7 o'clock. That is my next show, Thursday, April 27th at the Space in Vegas. This show's at 7. It's gonna sell out. We're probably gonna add a late show at 10 o'clock. So get your tickets now. I'll be there with Lila Hart and Keanu Thompson. Then I'm heading to Dallas, Texas. I'll be at Hyenas in Dallas there Friday, May 5th and Saturday, May 6th. 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday. It's gonna be an awesome time. Lila and Keanu will be joining me there as well. Then I'll be in Richmond, Virginia, headlining the Sandman Comedy Club on Wednesday, August 9th. Then we got Anime Matsuri coming up in Houston, August 10th through the 13th. Get your tickets for that convention. Simpcast will be there. Some of the gals you love from Simpcast will be doing a panel, we'll be doing a booth, we'll be all over. And I'm headlining that same Friday in Houston at the Secret Group, Friday, August 11th. Get your tickets now if you know you're going to be at Anime Matsuri. Can't wait to hang out with you guys and drink and tell jokes that are offensive, right? That's why we're here. Anyway, I'm excited to bring in our guest for today. Who knows? You might be familiar with him. You might not. He's a frequent speaker and contributor to Newsmax. He is a former advisor to President Trump. He's also the author of Deep State Target, which is a book that I now own. How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the Plot to Bring Down President Trump. George Papadopoulos, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me.
This is so exciting. We love having political guests on. Although George and I spoke before the show, he was like, I was told that this would be a funny show. So the pressure is on for me to be funny today. And I will definitely do my best. Here we go.
Hey, no pressure at all. You know, and actually these are my favorite type of programs because I'm doing so many just political shows that are just so serious all the time. But at the end of the day, I'm still a relatively younger guy. Who just got thrust
like 35? You're a baby.
I mean, relative, right? I mean, it's all relative to some of the other folks in this business, right? So it's always good just to mix and match some things. But yeah, I mean, definitely got sucked into a crazy situation at even younger age and just living it and just exposing it and just rocking and rolling.
Okay, we'll start with a joke because we are still in the Easter season. So this is my joke. Anytime I get into an Uber or a Lyft in a new state or city and I make the mistake of telling the Uber driver that I'm a comedian, that I'm there to do shows. I go, oh, tell me a joke. So this is my joke. This is a street joke. I don't even think I made this up. I think I just heard it somewhere. But it's my easiest joke to tell when people ask me for a joke. And it's an Easter joke. So here's how it goes. If mothers have Mother's Day and fathers have Father's Day, what do single guys have?
I have no Singles Day.
Palm Sunday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of them do. But yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
For a lot of my listeners, Palm Sunday is every day. It is all good. My gosh. Okay, so this is just your story is so fascinating and interesting to me. And anybody who reads this book, I'm not finished with it yet, but it reads very much like a spy novel, and I just can't believe uh your life story. How did you get to a place where, like, did you study international relations in college? Like, how did you get to a place where you are actually on the advisory panel to Trump's 2016 presidential campaign?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it feels like a lifetime ago, but I spent all my really like my 20s in Washington, D.C., working with a lot of these, I guess you would call them nowadays establishment or rhino type of characters that worked, with the George H.W. Bush administration, Reagan, George W. Bush. A lot of these guys were really the architects of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And I got really, I guess, fortunate back then to be like 23, 24 and jumping right into uh, working with some of these people that just left the Bush administration. And it was like a perfect storm, right? So I had that experience, and then I got tired of working with that type of crowd. And fast forward to 2015, there was a candidate that really just went down those escalators, was a well-known phenomenon, was a character. He really blended entertainment and politics and business, which was something really unique that you really never saw before. He was very, intrepid, bold, outspoken, but serious at the same time, and that was Trump, and that really caught my attention as an even younger kind of analyst, looking to get my foot into like presidential campaign politics or even presidential politics. And I reached out. I think it was at the time when the campaign was around three or four people, and I said, "Look, you don't know me. My name is George." I was talking to Corey Lewandowski, who was then Trump's campaign manager, who was a complete unknown at that time, just like I was. And I said, "You don't know me. I don't know you really, but I think you have a winner here." And he's like, "Let's keep in touch." I worked for Ben Carson first on his presidential campaign. When he dropped out, then I joined Trump, and then all hell broke loose after that.
Wow. Did you go to school in DC? Like, what brought you to DC? You just wanted to, work on basically work in government?
Actually, I'm from Chicago originally.
Okay.
So I studied in Chicago, and then I went abroad. I was in London, in the UK, for a couple of years. I was studying out there, and I had an opportunity just to work out in London or to come back and give a shot in DC. And I decided to come back home to, DC and just see what happens. And that's pretty much what happened. It just all really happened so quick, and like it's like really I can't really even explain it. It's like a really crazy situation, like of how fast life was moving back then.
Were your parents Republican? Like, was politics a big thing in your house growing up, or did you find, you became more passionate about it in college?
I mean, everybody's, has is influenced by their parents one way or another, right? So, whether it's good or bad or indifferent. I guess my parents were both Republican growing up. I guess more of like a conservative household, but I'm just a more of a common sense kind of guy, and I really never really cared about the party back then. I just cared about the persona and common sense, and that's another reason that me and like 75 to 80 million other voters like Trump so much is because he's a common sense, detail oriented, solutions oriented kind of guy without being so stuck in the rut on ideology or talking points or cliches, which are just so like stupid, I think, in politics.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Trump is a businessman and he has CEO energy, but he seems like the type of boss that would like come s- come like, visit your cubicle, or like what was it called? The undercover boss that would just they dress up and then they check on their employees. But what I liked about Trump, and I was not on board with him right away because I was still coming out of my idiot liberal phase. So it took me until like 2019. I voted for Trump in 2020, but it took me a while. I came around late, unfortunately, embarrassingly to say, but I like that he is obviously a part of the elite in the sense he's very successful and who he socializes with, but he is able to reach kind of regular people, and he speaks like a regular person, and I'm sure that's conscious. I'm sure he changes how he speaks depending on who he's speaking to, but I'm not saying like, oh, he uses some simple small words, but you notice in his speeches, he is able to make more of an impact, I think, because I think he just knows to speak sort of in sound bites, and he's able to just reach everybody that way. So getting into your I guess, your first few jobs, working in politics, was were they ever like, "Oh, you're too young," or "What qualifies you to work for this campaign?" Was that ever an issue or
You know what? Especially like years ago, I was a lot heavier and I looked a lot older than than I actually
it helped
even
to be
was.
fat? Oh.
Well, I mean, I was back, about 5 years ago. So I got in real good, I guess, better shape over the years. But I mean, so I don't think people actually even knew I was in my 20s. I mean, they would assume I was at least 40, 41, 42. And I never just said anything. Obviously, I wasn't going to say, hey, I'm 25 or I'm 26, and I want to join two presidential campaigns as like a senior kind of advisor on for Ben Carson or Trump or even with these other guys in Washington. And it never really came up, right? So, I mean, it's kind of like fake it until you make it kind of situation that so many people could relate to, especially when you're up and coming in your career. But not besides just like looking older, it's just like just being confident in who you are, confident in your ideas. And really, it's the young people who are the most inspiring, the most fresh, and they're the ones that are changing the world daily today. So I always kind of took that to heart, and I said, why should a 60 or 70-year-old guy or woman, dictate what I'm going to think or dictate how the world should operate when this is my world and I'm the future of it as a young person back then, right? So I guess that's just a simple message that if you're a young person, you should never, I guess, wait for your turn, just go and take it. And I think so many people are afraid to, ruffle feathers or just step out of line. And that's something I was never afraid to do.
That's great that you had that mentality, and yeah, it's like, look, you guys can't even remember your own passwords for your for your computers, for your iPads. My dad's always calling me like, "What's my iPad password?" And I'm like, "Oh, how did you ever raise 3 kids?" But that's true. I think a lot of and I know I worry about the next generation because I worry about their attention span. It seems like, all of them wanna be trans YouTube influencers, and I just go, "Okay, is this next generation gonna produce any serious adults?" But every generation has its challenges for sure, but I like that message of, you could very easily feel like you're never ready, so you should just go for it, and most jobs you do learn as you're working there. I don't think college prepared me for any job, so it's good to just go for it. So you're working for Trump. Then you became a national figure when you were called into the special counsel for Robert Mueller's investigation into the whole Russian interference into the 2016 election. How did that kind of get started, and what was the moment where you were like, "Oh God, like I think I'm being set up for something here"?
I mean, it's so, I mean, Chrissy, it's so crazy that you mentioned the whole Mueller Russia stuff because that was what, 2016, 2017, and we're still living it today. So, I mean, it just really shows like how consequential of an event that really was. And, obviously hindsight's 2020. You could always look back and say, oh, hey, that was odd, that was shady, that was weird. But if I didn't follow my instinct on a lot of like these setups that like the government was trying to do against me and likely others, we probably wouldn't even be talking about Trump. I think Trump probably wouldn't even have had more than 6 or 7 months in office the way they were going on offense against him back then, the way they are even worse now. Um, but so when I was working for Ben Carson, he was kind of this docile, very articulate, smart candidate with a great story. He ends up getting 10 to 11% of national support. He drops out, he endorses Trump. And right when I joined Trump, that's when all like hell breaks loose, like I mentioned earlier, right? That's when a lot of these foreign governments start like kind of asking to meet with me, asking all about Trump, what his message is, how he's going to like upend the world, why he's a danger, why am I working for him, who am I, et cetera, et cetera. And once they started to get to know more and more about him, the campaign, and me, that's when like they ramped things up and they started sending women my way. Like if you, I mean, like literally, like the FBI was sending like honeypots like towards me to try and make me slip up on information that I had no idea what they were trying to talk about. They were throwing
Wow.
money into my hands. They had professors who were spies, like wearing wires against me and others. So this was all like crazy stuff that if you had asked me if this was real 7 years ago, I would have thought you were like a conspiracy theorist person, right? But now I saw that it's all real, and it's just crazy what they're doing to Trump today. That it's just like a continuation of what they started back then, and it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, in your book, you discuss that certain, allied intelligence services, like they set out not only to destroy Trump's presidency, but anybody who worked closely with him. And I know, I interviewed not Giuliani himself, not Rudy, but his son, and just what I gained from speaking with him and Sebastian Gorka, it just seemed like anybody who was close at all to Trump was targeted. And I think, I mean, it's funny to talk about, like, yeah, they were sending you honeypots because the example that most of us know is like Project Veritas. They'll send out like a girl with big tits, I imagine, like a body cam or something, and try to get people to, like, spill secrets. But I guess I just never realized, you think of a president's advisors or people that work behind the scenes, you never think that someone like yourself will be in the spotlight. And, because most of us can't name advisors that worked with past presidents unless you're a real, like, politics nut. Um, but it goes to show how much the deep state really hated Trump. And the TDS continues, right, all these years later. It's interesting that you said, like, the deep state only really wanted Trump for 6 to 7 months in office. Like, do you think they actually thought they could get him out before his first term was completed even?
So Chrissy, the reason that they like bum rushed me and went after so many different guys and women on his team and even him so like aggressively, right? Like just 6 or 7 months into his administration, and why they had him on defense this whole time is because they really wanted to cover up exactly what we're talking about here, right? The FBI and the DOJ and all of like these, CIA and MI6 and all like these spy services, if you want to call them that, they operate in the shadows, right? They're supposed to be seen as the good guys versus the bad guys. Like we're supposed to live in this black and white world, right? Where it's us versus them. There's good and bad. The U.S. can never do wrong. It's always like these tin pot dictators who are like the bad guys, right? And that was always this narrative that the U.S. established or projected to the world, right? As like this freedom, this beacon of freedom, right? And then all of a sudden, based on all of this illegal behavior and activities that they were doing to try and, take down a president in a silent coup, the reason they were so aggressive with him in his first term is because they wanted him out of the picture before anybody could really dig this up and investigate what they did. And
Oof.
that's why we've had all of these new investigations now from like John Durham. If some of your viewers, want to Google what that's all about, Horowitz is another one, and now you have Bragg and the new special counsel. I mean, we've literally had like 7 different investigations, like overlapping in one way or another, that have to do with Trump and what happened in 2015, 2016. So that's why they really wanted him out. It failed. And now they're just kind of like, you know what? We're not subtle anymore. The gloves are off. We're just going to have to take this guy down one way or another, whether it's through a porn star, whether it's through some weird tax stuff that makes no sense, whether we're going to raid them and plant dirt or evidence in Mar-a-Lago like Trump was theorizing about. I mean, it's like insane what's going on.
Yeah, and just a few hours ago, Trump was called back to New York. I guess he has to go back to New York this week, this Thursday, over another, I guess, fraud lawsuit within the Trump organization. So he has to come back here to New York this week. And it makes me nervous because it's like, okay, wow, he was just in New York for the Stormy Daniels stuff. Do you I guess my fear is, like, is this going to keep happening? Is he gonna be called in for more lawsuits? And is it going to, mess with his campaign? Is there anything that can happen that can keep him from running in next year?
Chrissy, in 2017, when my mugshot went public and the name like Papadopoulos and all this kind of craziness about being like some Russian spy and all this, I thought my life was over, right? I thought the moment you have a mugshot out in front of like 100 million people and people are
It's a
condemning
great
you and
mugshot. You look tough.
see, remember how I mentioned like how like life is so different now than it was back in 2015, 2016, and the years before? Like
Mhm.
now it's like a badge of honor having like a mugshot or like your fingerprints taken or indicted.
Look at that.
Exactly,
I
there
wouldn't
it
mess
is.
with this guy.
Right. They made a big mistake going after me because I went on offense against them. And it's exactly why I like when people say, "Oh, how is this going to affect Trump?" I've been talking about this a lot on TV and on social media. You have to be on offense. You have to take this as a badge of honor, right? I mean, Steve Bannon got indicted. You had Roger Stone sentenced to prison for like 2 years. Luckily, he got pardoned. You had all these guys sentenced to prison, but it just made them tougher. It built their aura because they stood for something, right? And the way Trump is going after them now and fighting back, that's the reason why he's raising $10 million since he got indicted. That's the reason why his poll numbers are skyrocketing because the American people have seen through this garbage. They've seen through this fake, persecution, and they're tired of it. And at the end of the day, like our like rule of law has become a joke because of it. So I think it's only going to help him. It's only going to boost him. And even if he is convicted, which I don't think he will be, he could still actually be president. So this entire thing is like just a joke.
Do you think they're mostly just trying to tire him out or lower his, I guess, resolve? Or do you think the plan is more to affect public opinion of him or just drag him even more so? I mean, I feel like the public is gonna feel the one way about him. I mean, they're either at this point, either you love him or you hate him. I don't know. I don't know what more they could do to hurt his public image because I think the people that are writing for him, are going to be there for him no matter what. But do you think, I guess, what do you think is more important to, I guess, the deep state ruining his reputation or just tying him up in with legal, battles, basically?
You know, they can't really like dirty his his reputation anymore, right? I mean, they've done everything to the guy they possibly can do. They've impeached him twice. They've raided his house. They've really tried to like expose his family personal life, right? They've thrust his family into like the public criminal domain by like subpoenaing them and like making them testify in front of grand juries and just like really going after him. So I don't think they could do anything more so to like really mess up his reputation or who he is because, like I've said, he just raised $10 million after the indictment. His poll numbers haven't been this strong since he was president, right? And there was all this talk that you have people like DeSantis or some of these other up and coming guys or girls who might, be the future of the GOP or the MAGA movement taking over. And, there was an argument to be made about that, but that all changed when they raided Mar-a-Lago. There were a lot of people that I was talking to, moderates, even Democrats, people who, were souring even on Trump for whatever reason, that said, based on the raid, we're all in on Trump, just out of
Wow.
principle. Now fast forward to the indictments. DeSantis, who was really seen, like I mentioned, as like potential like successor, because he didn't even come out as strong as he should have to defend against the indictment, he took a shellacking now too in like public opinion. So it really goes to show just like how virtuous like the American people really are and how they know what's right and what's wrong, and that they will like always seek to like defend those who are like persecuted, right? And I think that's what Trump has going for him right now, besides like really good policies, is that he has like this persecution aura for right or wrong, and people are backing him because of it.
Yeah, and I feel like the overall message is the swamp is very much still in full swing and want to take him down. Don't want him running. Don't they want it seems like completely unperson him even. It's like they're just still so upset to me that then an outsider was able to run and win and meddle with all their, 10-year plans, and it just seems like the anger and what they've done to him and right anybody associated his family, it's just so dirty. And I don't know if this is just part of growing up and getting red pilled or realizing the truth about the world we live in, but it's really been eye-opening to see how hard they've gone after him for a president who started no new wars. I mean, like, there were so many positives about his administration. I wanted to mention in your book, you gave a play-by-play of how certain operatives like Professor Joseph Mifsud, Sergei Milian, Alexander Downer, and Stefan Halper, they all worked to invent this Russian conspiracy with the goal of damaging the Trump administration. Was this the first time that these names have been named to the public? This book came out in 2019, but was your book the first time that people, learned about these people?
Yeah, so some of the characters you just mentioned are like at the like epicenter of like every investigation that we've talked about over the last 5 years, right? They're the ones who started Comey's investigation, Mueller's, this John Durham investigation, the Horowitz investigation, some of these other investigations that have been ongoing, and really what the book really showcases is that like the intelligence community has unlimited manpower, unlimited time, right? And unlimited resources to go after certain people if they want to. And I always say that they should have really teamed up with Hollywood producers because they really were trying to create this like spy fiction about Putin, about myself,
Hmm.
about Trump, about others. And that's why they had to bring in all these shady characters who were, throwing money in people's laps, throwing, women, these honeypots. They were spying, wiretapping, making these professors come out, but they were really, informants. So they had to create this situation because there's one thing that, people love, and that's a good spy story, right? They love to see, the shady, Putin and the guys in the suits, the sunglasses, like the James Bond kind of stuff. And they had to create that because they had to cover up what their real plans were, right? And I think, unfortunately,
Hmm.
and I don't say this lightly, I think that they've been wanting to go to war with Russia since at least 2015 and 2016, like we're seeing now with Ukraine and all this insanity that's happening with China and Iran, and like the world is becoming so unstable. And I think Trump just stood in their way for those 4 years to keep that peace, like you mentioned. And that's what pissed them off so bad. But that's why they went so out of their way to create this Russia conspiracy with some of these characters that you just brought up, because they had to make it so obscene and rile up so many people's emotions to say that Russia's the bad guy. We have to go after them. And that's what we're seeing today, unfortunately.
And basically what they were trying to charge you with was election interference. Were they claiming that you like told the Trump administration about the hacked emails? Or was that, just correct me if I'm wrong, if that's what they were actually trying to charge you with? Uh-oh, earbuds.
Sorry.
Can you hear me? Oh no, George. He'll come back. He'll come back.
Hi, can you
Hi, yeah.
Hi, not sure what happened. These headphones just blew up on me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
guess somebody didn't want me saying what I was saying or you saying what you were saying.
Right?
That's pretty crazy.
They bugged your earbuds.
That was weird. So sorry, what were
I'm
you asking?
gonna try to keep my questions like kind of in order. I'm just excited and jumping around a lot. So, what for you? I think I'm so interested in the honey pots too. How do they even send out a honey pot? They find out you have meetings or they know where you are and they just like send like hot girls with cameras on to go like get you drunk and get you to spill beans. I don't know.
Well, the problem with them is like my wife's like objectively very hot, right? I mean, I'm a very lucky guy, and they didn't have my type of girl, I guess, that they were bringing my way back then, and they were just like for example, right, some of these guys that you mentioned that were in my book, some of these spies, they would bring me in a meeting with them, but then they would also have a girl with them, like kind of dressing suggestively, flirting a little weird, during a meeting. And then you're kind of putting two and two together and you're just saying, like, what is this? Is this normal? Why is this old man with this like 30-year-old, semi-attractive girl, and why is she asking to go out for drinks and get coffee and dinner in the middle of a meeting? So
Yeah, like, what are you doing here?
I mean, you just kind of, get your spider senses kind of just like spring up, and you're like, there's something off here, right? And then you realize later on that, I mean, you have to understand, this is all stuff that, we're laughing about now. Like we can like think like it's normal now because the world has become so crazy. But in 2015 and 2016, we weren't like at this level, right? So like, this is like crazy that you would even think that these agencies were doing this to guys working on a presidential campaign. And imagine what else they were doing to other campaigns if they were doing this to me, and wiretapping. And so basically what happened is, like right after my name went public, I think in October of 2017, some journalists started reaching out to me and saying, hey, did you have some women coming towards you? Like, were they asking you these weird questions regarding, the campaign? Were they working with some older guys? And I said, yeah, they were. And then later on, some big stories broke. I think some from the Daily Caller. Chuck Ross wrote the first big article. I think it's even on his Twitter account right now. I think it's called George Papadopoulos had a very suspicious meeting in London. And that was like the first instance where like this stuff really became real. And it got exposed, and a lot of these people have gone underground, and we haven't heard from them in the last 6 years. So I'm still waiting to see what really happened.
Wow. My next question was going to be, what was your first indication that you were being set up? But it sounds like it was this London meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I realized that when I was sitting down with diplomats, right, like from, I don't know, Australia, England, Germany, France, like normal American allies, right? Not like these weird countries that are enemies of America, right? So your guard is down. You're not expecting anything weird to happen when you're talking, I don't know, to an ambassador from Australia. But as I'm sitting down, and the reason I'm bringing this meeting up is because apparently this meeting I had with an Australian diplomat launched a lot of these investigations. And I'm sitting down, and the guy's recording me. Like, he puts his phone out at a bar and is recording me. He's like, just like this. Like, just
did he tell you he was recording you?
No, I mean, imagine you're I'm an ambassador, right? So all your viewers kind of understand how crazy this is. I'm an ambassador. You're talking with me, and then I pull my phone out like this, hold it down, and I'm like talking. I mean,
it's so obvious. You're like.
But because it was so obvious, like, it puts you in like shock, right? Because you're sitting there in front of like this old diplomat from Australia who's all of a sudden talking to you about his connections to Clinton, why Trump is a bad guy, but that he doesn't care. And then he's asking me questions about myself, the campaign in April 2016, right? May 2016. And he starts like pulling his phone and recording me.
Not even slick about it. Yeah, this person sounds like a boomer. Like, just being like.
But it's like because he was a boomer that I was like, so like, this can't be real. Like, it's so weird. They can't. My eyes are playing a game on me. Like, why is this guy recording me? Right? Like, what is he doing? Is this weird? Anyway, I want to get out of here. I want to finish my gin and tonic and get the hell out of here. Kind of situation, like at a public bar, right? So that meeting where this guy, his name is Alexander Downer, if anybody wants to look into this guy, when he was working with the Australian government, he gave $25 million of Australian taxpayer money to the Clinton Foundation, right? He was a personal friend of Bill and Hillary Clinton. All of these guys that were involved in this spy story had some connection to Clinton or Obama. And it's really sad to say that it looks like Obama and Clinton themselves were really pushing this thing from the top just to make sure that Obama had a third term. And I don't say that easily or lightly, but it really looks like they were manipulating an entire election, and that's, something that I think so many people right now are up in arms about because of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there were a couple people in the chat that said you can throw your honeypot rejects my way. So if I don't know that if you've kept in touch with the honeypots, but that's so funny. It does help to have a super hot wife because as you guys can see, I mean, like this, you're with a honeypot 24/7. So it's going to be tough to trick you.
It's great. I mean, but tell your viewer, they've all gone underground, So I don't know if where they are, who they are, but they're all underground. We might never find them again. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what that's all about.
That must be pretty scary once you start seeing the links between these people and the Clintons. Like we all know what they're capable of, and people have been known to suddenly drown in their own pools. So, were you ever nervous or scared at any point throughout any of this?
Chrissy, that's exactly why I went so vocal so quickly, and I really didn't care about consequences. And to this day I don't care because you got to talk, and when you're being framed or somebody's trying to squeeze you or do something wrong to you, just like they're doing to the president, you have to talk about it. You have to go on offense because if you don't, people are going to forget about you. I mean, it's like you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, right? People have such short attention spans. Like you don't even know what the news was yesterday, no matter how big it was, right? We have bombshell news every single day. So even the president got indicted, but that almost seems like last year's news because so many things have happened just in the last week. So if I didn't talk, you and I probably wouldn't be talking today. My name would have never been known. The president likely wouldn't have had more than 6 or 7 months in his first administration. And all of this crazy stuff that we're talking about, which is all real, would have been swept underneath the rug, never to be told. And, who knows, the bad guys would have won.
And yeah, didn't it just come out Biden White House directly coordinated with FBI to set up Trump raid? Like that's like you said, there's breaking news every day, bombshell news. It's almost like it's too much and people have reached their limit and I don't know.
It's like the horror movies, right? Like you could become desensitized to the crazy movies that are coming out nowadays over the last 10 years and you just really see people doing it in real life, right? So people are just so desensitized to all this crazy stuff that's happening with Trump that they're like, oh, that's just another story, the current president is guiding his FBI to take out his political opponent, just another day in America kind of thing, it's like.
Yeah, and has it always been this way? I mean, I'm not a history buff, but has any other president in US history been this much of a target by the deep state than Trump, or did Trump just expose the deep state to kind of the average person?
I think that every president has had some sort of entrenched bureaucracy have some sort of control over them, or they wish they had control over them, right? Whether it's Democrat or Republican, because that's how they actually have influence. If you have a woman or a man who's in leadership who isn't beholden to the deep state or donors or lobbyists or needs their advice or doesn't have any fear of them, then they're going to have their own foreign policy, their own economic policy. They're going to have their own advisors, right? Like Trump really did. And that's what made him such a threat because he didn't have anything. He had no dirt on him like Clinton did with the Clinton Foundation, with her emails. And that's why, the FBI opened that investigation into her 2 weeks before the election, because they were basically telling her, if you win, we have this over your head and you're going to do what we tell you in some sense or the other, right? And you can just see it throughout history. I mean, it's always the same pattern, but Trump broke that. And I think that's why now they're trying to muddy him up, dirty him up, to assure that if he does get reelected, he's going to have all these continuous investigations over him that are just going to wear him down and maybe make him resign. I mean, that's what they hope, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Wow. And for you, I guess this was what I was trying to ask before your earbuds went out, because you actually did you go to prison for like a little bit? They actually what did they technically charge you with? I know you got off of all because you were cleared. Did they try to charge you with election interference? Like tell us what you were sort of charged of, what the process was like, and I guess what prison was like.
Yeah, good question, right? I mean, I got arrested at the airport in like the summer of 2017. I was coming back from a transatlantic flight. It was like a 14-hour flight. I was exhausted.
Oh, yeah, you
Uh,
probably needed to shower, get the plain butt smell off you. Oh, that's the worst time.
I mean, so that's why my mugshot, I looked, pretty tired in that picture you just you showed earlier because I hadn't slept in like a day. I'm bum rushed off an airplane basically by like 10 agents. They're telling me that they put me in a room and they say, "Hey, this is the room where the president comes when he lands at Dulles." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And like, "You're under arrest." I'm like, "For what?" For lying to the FBI and some other stuff they were trying to throw and say that I did, which I didn't. And then they put shackles and they put me in a black SUV, throw me in a cell, and I'm like, what the hell is going on
Did they
here?
let you pick up your luggage first?
No, not at
Oh
all.
my god.
Not at all.
I
So
would be so anxious about
I mean, so and back and like I said, and like I'm like sitting in a jail with a guy in there, and they like slide food through the door, like some like like when you were in like elementary school, like that canned fruit stuff.
Oh,
It's like
yes, Dole, a fruit cup,
yeah,
the pineapple, the cherry, the peach.
exactly. So it was like 5 in the morning, I guess, and like they were like giving you like that type of dole fruit, and like a guy's like, "Let me eat your fruit." The guy that's like sitting next to me in the cell. I'm like, "Is this real? This is a joke." I mean, this is like kind of like a bad situation. I'm like, "I got to go to the bathroom," and I tell the guard I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, "The bathroom's in there," and with like the other inmate
Next to the fruit cup. My god.
next to the so after that I'm like, all right, this is the biggest joke in the world, or these guys are crazy, or they're serious, or they're trying to go after somebody much bigger than me, and that's why they're doing this to me. And after that I get out the next day. It's the first time I saw Mueller's prosecutors. I didn't recognize them initially, and they're like, he lied to the FBI. We're charging him with this, and he can be released. And the reason I couldn't talk is because they put some sort of gag order on me, where I couldn't talk to anybody on Trump's team. I couldn't go on social media. I couldn't talk about anything. So it was like me on my own against the world. The federal government squeezing me. I pled out. And I said to myself, I'm going to plead out, but then I'm going to tell the truth once I'm able to. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, what else could you do in that situation? It sounds really scary, and obviously, like, you were a political prisoner. So,
Yeah, it
were
was
you
pretty.
in there so just for a day you were there?
No, 11 days altogether.
Oh
11 days.
god.
Yeah.
And what
11.
happened to your I don't know why I'm so fixated on your luggage. What happens to your luggage if you get arrested at the airport?
The worst thing about it, Chrissy, is I lost my luggage and I never got it back. I had amazing things in that luggage that I miss to this day, and I never got it back. They ended up losing it, and that was just another, bad situation that came from that whole
Ugh.
late night with the feds.
Or who was that guy that stole the luggage in the Biden administration? What the hell was his
The bald
name?
guy, the bald guy.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe he scooped it up.
Probably, probably.
Man.
Let's see. He was
What was
wearing like some women's dresses, so I didn't
Yeah.
have women's dresses in my luggage, but
So he was yeah, Sam Britton stole it. Thank you, TW. What other than the fruit cups, what was the food like in prison?
so when I went to my real, jail or whatever, then we had, Wednesday chicken wings. We had a more, it was gourmet. It was a little upscale compared
Were you in a
to.
fancy prison?
I don't think I really was even at it was like a camp. It's called. I don't know.
Okay.
It was in Wisconsin. There were a lot of like doctors, lawyers, business guys who didn't pay taxes who were in.
Ooh.
you actually learn a lot from.
So good networking.
You,
Yeah.
you actually can learn a lot from them and like kind of take like this like different approach than being so scared. And I don't know if like any of your viewers are familiar with like rush football, right? Like that arena football stuff. One of the guys in there was like one of the owners of one of the arena football teams. So it was just a really surreal experience. The food was better. It sucked. It was boring as hell. And that was probably the worst thing. It's just very boring. And I feel so bad for a lot of these guys that had to deal with what they're dealing with on January 6th because they got some really harsh conditions where they're at in Washington. They're not in any friendly territory out there. You know, I was in rural Wisconsin, so they were pretty like nice to me out there. But in DC, you're hearing stories of guys getting, you know, their asses kicked by, you know, guards. I don't know if that's real. You know, you're
Wow.
getting stories that they're not sleeping. They're not allowed to sleep. They can't watch TV. They can't do anything. It's just terrible.
Oh, and Jacob Chansley spent so much time in solitary just for wearing a goofy costume, like through the Capitol. I was there too. I didn't go inside, but I feel like I mean, I got a couple phone calls, so it's you can definitely see they're just trying to scare average people and make an example out of everybody. Thank you, Patriotic Gestalt, for the super chat. Oh, we got a question from Excel Self. Chrissy, the FBI has named red pill based and LARPing as concerning words. What are your thoughts on that? And when are you getting Torsia on your show? I don't know who that is. I have to look them up. Yeah, it's so interesting. It just seems like more of the same. They're really just trying to find anyone who's a patriot or a conservative or basically a non-leftist, figure out the kind of words they're using, how they're communicating with one another, and either shut that off completely or demonize language, regular words. Okay. This is a question for George from Matthew. Thanks, Matthew. Does Trump still trust the administrative state, or has he realized it is corrupt to the core? When did he realize this?
I think what we were talking about earlier, right? Trump was an outsider in 2015 and 2016, right? I mean, he was never a politician. He had a very successful life outside of politics. He didn't get into politics to get rich like a lot of these other grifters do, right? A lot of these, candidates, even who are running for president now, I don't think they have any reason to be running except to make money out of the situation. They know they're not going to win, and they're just fundraising off the situation. Moving to Trump, I think that Trump has learned his lesson. I think, and he says it better than I can say it. He says he knows Washington better now. He knows who the weak people are, who the strong people are, who the loyal people are, and who the swamp creatures are. He was in there for 4 years, and he's been living this situation for longer than 4 years. And he has people now that he can trust. His advisors are a small group of people that have really shown to be loyal to him, shown to give good advice. And I think should he get reelected to a second term, he's going to clean house like he's talking about. If you go on his Truth Social, you'll see he gives these policy points of how he's going to deal with the economy, foreign policy, but also clean out the administrative state. And this is probably the biggest point on his current campaign of how to clean out the swamp. So if you want a candidate who's going to really clean out DC, it's a person who's being persecuted by the swamp, and that's Trump today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes, it's real. Guards do it all the time. I once worked there. Oh, meaning the guards beating up the inmates. That's so scary. Kamikaze, I had some jail pudding. That was fire. They put chocolate chips in the pudding. Changed my life. Wow.
Those are sharing war stories.
I don't know why I'm so anybody. I mean, it's really just you and my one other friend Gary who've been to prison, but I was like asking a lot of questions because I don't know why
It's
it's fun.
surreal. It's crazy. And it's something that, I mean, I don't wish it on anybody. I mean, whether you're in there for an hour or for 20 years, I mean, it's crazy that, you know, people can put you behind bars and take away your freedom. It's something that, you know, in this country has become so normalized that, you know, like we talked about like pre-2015, right? Like you would watch the movies and always there's a bad guys going to jail. The FBI and the local cops can never do good. Of course, no one sets people up. But now, look what's happening. I mean, you have the president of the United States himself going public and saying that he thinks that the FBI might have been planting evidence on him at Mar-a-Lago during the raid. This is what Trump was saying. Not
He
what
said
I'm.
that right away. Yeah, he said that at the beginning of the raid. Oh, who knows if they're planting stuff? And then it comes out that Biden was working directly with the FBI to set the whole thing up. So it's like, why wouldn't you plant stuff if you're the FBI?
So like I said, back before the pre-Trump era, getting arrested for your political opinions might have been a life-ending crisis. Now it's actually become almost like a badge of honor in many ways because so many people are getting arrested. You have grandmothers who are in solitary confinement right now for doing nothing. I mean, it's incredible. So the world and America has changed so crazy and so quickly that I think many people are even trying to catch up to see what's happening and they can't.
Did you notice with your own, personal relationships, friends or acquaintances, did you see any of that change once you started working with Trump? Like what was, other than public backlash, did you notice it, hindered any of your personal relationships? Anybody kind of like distance themselves from you out of TDS?
So one of like the main issues that's going on right now with like the Durham probe, which is like the counter probe into the FBI, what they were doing in 2016, and some of the other investigations that were going on, including the Inspector General Horowitz, is that he presented a transcript with an informant that I was having a conversation with, in which I'm basically saying, I don't know anything about Russia. Trump doesn't know anything about Russia. The campaign has nothing to do with Russia. This is all nonsense, BS, and, Trump is just a, patriot who loves America, and that's why he got elected. That was basically what I was saying to an informant. And going to your question about people that I knew who might have been distancing themselves, that person who was an informant in that transcript, which is now at the center of these new investigations that are targeting the FBI, was a guy I went to college with, who who came into my life randomly almost once I started working for Trump, just to try and set me up. So, yeah, did I lose friends? Absolutely. Did I have people wearing wires against me who I knew as friends because I worked for Trump? Yes. Do I care? No, because at the end of the day, the people who are in my life right now are the people that matter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you dealt with FBI placed spies, physical surveillance, search warrants, interrogations, threats, like you said, possibly being wiretapped. Do you have any legal recourse here at all, or is this just part of being involved in politics?
You know, I'm waiting for the end of this investigation, this Durham investigation, because that's really, I guess, and if you look on my Twitter account at George Papa 19, there's a quote I have on my pinned thing, whatever it's called, pinned Twitter or pinned account or whatever, in which like NBC says that what I've been talking about is at the center of this counter investigation. Yeah, that NBC quote right there that your viewers can see. So
Wow,
I'm
A Western intelligence official familiar with what John Durham has been asking of foreign officials say his inquiries track closely with the questions raised about the Russia investigation, a line of inquiry based on accusations made by George Papadopoulos. That's you.
I, so I don't know what that means exactly, besides what we're
Mm.
talking about here, but I'm waiting for the end of this investigation. And if people are going to likely get indicted on the other side, which that's what a lot of people are talking about, a lot of these agents and even FBI officials, actually just last month, we've been talking about how fast the news cycle is moving. Last month, the head of the New York Counterintelligence Division of the FBI, this guy Charles McGonigal, just got indicted on a series of massive crimes, but no one's even talking about it. And he was the guy running the entire operation against the campaign in 2016. So I'm waiting for the investigations to be complete to see how the dominoes fall, how high up it went, the scandal, and whether or not I have recourse after the conclusion of that. That's something I'm going to definitely look into.
Okay, definitely. From Gamehenge Patriot. Oh, like nice $17 and 76 cents. Deep state target breaks down Papa D's. They call you Papa D. I love that. Papa D's arrest. How they targeted Trump. Papadopoulos suffered for us. He's a hero to me. Oh,
I
oh.
appreciate that. Thank you so much for that because I guess we're all 75 million people who supported him really are the victims at the end of the day. And that's something I've always talked about. It's not, and I never make it about me ever. I always really feel the ultimate victim is the people and the institutions in this country. And I really appreciate that. And just hope we really get back on track in this country.
So let's say Trump wins somehow in 2024. What do you think his biggest concerns are? And is that different than what you think they should be?
I think the biggest concern and really what makes him stand out is really exposing like the rot and the corruption within American institutions writ large, not just in the DOJ, but in American universities today, within the FBI, the executive office, I mean, it seems that corruption is really permeating all institutions within America today. That's why we've seen dramatic changes in culture, identity, foreign policy, economic policy, immigration policy, all to the detriment really of the American people. I mean, objectively, whether you like or you hate Trump, objectively, the policies which are being pushed down the American people's throats today by the woke ideology are not to your benefits. They're just not. I mean, the mutilation of children, the transgenderism, open borders, wars potentially with China, Russia, Iran, a deputized FBI that's really going after conservatives, government spending through the roof, inflation. I could just go on and on and on. There's nothing that this administration and the left, the extreme left, is doing today that's going to benefit you. And that's why you really need somebody who's a center-right candidate to put things back in order. And I think Trump is the guy to do it.
Yeah, it just seemed like there is a multi-pronged attack on everything that makes America great, all of our rights. They've infiltrated our institutions, right? Universities. It's all the stuff we talk about all the time. But if he wins, then I can bust out my Trump hugging the flag bobblehead. And somebody just sent me this today. It's an AOC bobblehead. They did not do her justice in the booty department, though, by the way. This is flat. This is not Latinx booty here, but like the face, this is bad because she's an attractive woman. But anyway.
And even like the Latinx thing, I don't even know what that means,
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends, from, Central, South America, Mexico, and they don't even know what that means. So I think even like Van Jones on CNN was like calling it weird, right? This is like one of their, it was like a viral hit that he said, like, how does this really even promote the left agenda when you're calling people, what is it, Latinx or whatever? I don't even know what the name is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. And it does nothing to improve their life. It just puts people in a box. And it's something, I'm a Greek American, right? My grandparents came to this country.
You're Greek X. Yeah.
I guess I'm Greek X, but at the end of the day, I was born and raised in Chicago. I've lived here all my life and I will live and die here, so I care about that. And I don't care about being put in a box. And I don't think a lot of people either, but identity politics, putting people in boxes, putting people against one another based on religion, skin color, ideology, it's all just a divide and conquer tool that no one wins except bureaucracy.
Yeah, it feels like they're trying to, make everyone forget. Like, really, we are all Americans, and there was a time not that long ago where you could have completely different political opinions with your best friend. They could even be different than your spouse, and it just wouldn't come up. And then we started to see messaging during Trump presidency, even from very mainstream magazines like Glamour, Marie Claire, Cosmo, whatever, why you should break up with your Trump supporting boyfriend. Like why? And I'd never seen that promoted ever in my lifetime. And it's just, they went so hard. And now it just seems like they're going hard to break up everything that makes America great. And if they can break us up into little groups, well, then we can't come together to fight the powers that be in the swamp and all that.
It's true. That you nailed it. You said it better than I did. That's absolutely, what's happening. And it's funny because, we've become like in tribes, right? We're like isolated as Americans today. And it's something that, yeah, you can have your opinions, you could like a certain political party, you could even like a certain baseball team or football team. I'm from Chicago, I'm a White Sox fan, but I have friends who are Cubs fans, like you could be in New York, you could be a Yankees or a Mets fan, you could be a Republican and, have Democrat friends. But now it's like the media is pushing an agenda where if you decide to have Republican friends, you could be fired, you could be called a racist, a xenophobe, a bigot, somebody who doesn't deserve your respect. And that's why I think tensions are so high in America, why you have all these mass shootings recently. You have people running into holiday parades in Wisconsin because they're triggered by the dangerous rhetoric out of the left. And that's something that all of us have to just pause and say, wait a minute, cool the tensions down, respectfully disagree, have your life, but at the end of the day, come together where it matters. And that's something that we're so far beyond that, it's going to take a real uniter to bring it back together.
What do you see, I guess, your role with Trump moving forward? Are you going to, work with him in this upcoming run?
Chrissy, I live in Los Angeles right now, and I'm focusing on some different projects out here with my wife, and it's taking up a lot of time. Obviously, I'm a big advocate of the president. I'm a contributor on TV on policy and politics, and I'm weekly, right? So I'm always trying to articulate, what his messages are to the American people and give my opinion of why he's the best candidate. And should an opportunity arise to be officially part of this new campaign, which really just got launched about 2-3 weeks ago, that would definitely be an honor. But right now, I'm very happy in my current position, and you never know what might happen in the future.
Yeah, you're home with your honey pot.
Exactly.
George, where can people? You said you're weekly on Newsmax, I think, or where else can people watch you and find you other than following you on Twitter?
So I'm on Newsmax frequently, weekly. I'm actually going to be on Real America's Voice tonight at 7:30. If anybody's interested in that,
Nice.
it's 7:30 Eastern. Great people, great friends on that channel too. But Twitter is really my main social media platform. I'm not posting topless on Instagram or with the sunglass pics on Instagram or Facebook. I don't even know how to really do like a public profile on Facebook. So I'm all on Twitter.
You're too young for Facebook. Let let the boomers have it.
I'm on there. I have some grandparents and cousins and that stuff, but I don't know how to get any reach on that. But look, I'm always very happy to talk. My DMs are open, as they say, and if anybody ever wants to, ask a question privately, I always try and answer as many questions as I can. So, but at George Papa 19 is where you could find me on Twitter.
Follow Papa D, everybody, and buy his book, Deep State Target, on Amazon, I guess wherever else books are sold. But it's a great book, and it's been so great to talk to you, George.
Thank you.
This is just a blast. This is a blast for me. I know the viewers liked it too. You guys behaved yourself very well, and you even had some good questions in there. Follow Papa D, buy his book. Thank you for coming on, and we will see you next time, everyone. Bye.